Welcome back to Creepy Kitty Creations for the first video of 2026. I know it was supposed to be the Q&A video, but that's taking a little bit longer than planned, although I think it will make for a much more fun video. So for now, I wanted to share a new type of doll that I've started making that I've been really enjoying giving as gifts, and it's called a poppet. For those of you not familiar with the term, a poppet is a small doll or figure used in sympathetic magic to represent a person, and is often used for spells in paganism and witchcraft. Now, they're usually made out of fabric, clay, or corn husks, or they can or even be made out of natural things like sticks. But because I like making plushies, I wanted to make a plush poppet with all sorts of nice goodies stuffed inside, with specific spells for the person who you're giving it to, which is usually things like health and protection. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm using recycled fabric that my sister gave me. She uses it as wrapping paper. I drafted up a quick pattern and we'll just cut them out. So for this poppet, I wanted to make a mandrake because I originally made this in December, but I needed to refilm it because my phone wasn't working then. So I wanted to make a little mandrake because my friend is currently trying for a baby, and mandrake root is usually used as a talisman for fertility. But unfortunately, mandrake root is also very, very poisonous, so we can't actually get it here in New Zealand. So I thought if I can't get any actual root, I'll make her a little mandrake poppet. After cutting everything out, I'm just stitching it all on my new sewing machine, which is in my favourite colour, because this is much stronger than hand sewing. I usually prefer to hand sew for dolls because it's too tiny, but this is much bigger, so it's easier to do on a sewing machine, and it keeps the stuffing in a lot nicer. So while poppets historically and traditionally can be used for both benevolent and malevolent purposes, I am a big believer of only white magic, good magic, and good intent. So this poppet is, well, the one that I made for my friend, her poppet was for fertility and protection. The one I'm making now is going to be for health and also protection. I'm just clipping the round edges so that when you turn it right side in, it will sit nicely, otherwise it can bunch a little bit. So I've done that on the leaves as well, anywhere that basically has a curve. And turning things right side out is a bit tricky at this scale, so my pro tip is use the end of a knitting needle. If you use the pointy end, it'll pierce the fabric, but if you go through like with this rounder end, then it will help you flip it the right way in. Otherwise it can be quite frustrating. So because mandrakes have little roots and little bumps and things, I'm using a matching colour wool and just tying a knot in the end so that I can make little roots coming out of his hands and feet. Some fun facts about mandrake, not just as a plant but in folklore and mythical culture, is apparently in German and Dutch, their name in German, it's, I'm gonna butcher this, Gallenmannelein, which means little gallows man, because they used to believe that mandrakes would grow near gallows where people had been hanged. And in Dutch, it's Pistiefje, little urine thief, because they used to think that they grew from the brains of dead thieves. So very similar to the German, so technically they'd also call it a brain thief. And I think a lot of this stems just from how much the root does look like a person, like the actual root when you pull it up does look like a little person. So I'm not surprised that all these places around the world have myths and folklore to do with this plant. Then of course there's the myth that if you pull up a mandrake from the ground. It will cry and its scream will kill anyone who heard it. So the Romans would actually, and I think in other countries as well, they would tie the roots to the bodies of animals, quite often stray hungry dogs, and then they'd hold something in front of them like a piece of meat to get the dog to move and pull the root out so that the scream would kill the animal rather than the person, which is barbaric, and but at least we know that it wouldn't have killed the dog because they, being just a normal root, they won't actually scream. But that particular lore goes back centuries, which is so fascinating. I untwisted the yarn and cut it at different lengths to make it look like the little hairs at the ends of roots, because they go off in all different directions. So I thought this would look a bit more like that. Now for the leaves. I didn't want them to be all floppy, I wanted them to stick up, so I'm just using some wire and I'm keeping the ends of it long so that it's still got something to stick into the top of the mandrake's head, but this way it will keep the leaves sticking upright. And I thought the easiest way to keep this in place was just to put the wire in place, and then I'm just doing a stem stitch along the outer edge encasing the wire. And there we have them. So to keep them all bunched together, I'm just going to twist all the wires into one sort of curled wire that I can stick into the mandrake's head. But before I can put it on the mandrake, we have to stuff it. And the biggest part of making a poppet is what you fill it with. So I've got all my magical bits and bobs here, including lavender, cinnamon, dried sage and basil. I collected these little rose quartz hearts, which are just gorgeous, and I love the idea of it having an actual heart. Usually you'd use maybe just a chunk of rose quartz, or it doesn't have to be heart-shaped, but I loved the idea of having something heart-shaped as the heart. So I'm just stuffing it. This is one of the feet, stuffing with a little bit of stuffing, which is hard with such a small opening, and then I'm sprinkling in some sage and basil to use as its quote-unquote blood. Both basil and sage are very good at warding off evil. They have very potent protective qualities, and basil in particular, when paired with ingredients like sage or rosemary, they create a very strong protective barrier. So I want to fill the poppet with the sage and basil, the dried sage, like what you use as a herb in cooking, and I think having that throughout the entire poppet, stuffing as its blood, will just make it so protective of whoever you give it to, keeping them nice and safe from harm, any nasty spirits, and just from harm in general. After marking out where I want the eyes, I've just used my awl to poke a hole, and I'm using these little, well, not so little eyes that I got online to make these beady little eyes. Aren't these so cute? Now he has a little face. So now we can stuff the head and filling it with sage and basil, just like with the legs and feet. And while it's important for poppets to have a heart, I don't think it's all that important that they have something to represent a brain. This takes a deceptive amount of stuffing because you don't want the head being too floppy and you want to fill up all of those areas and give him some little cheeks. Now we're going to fill up his body, and before putting stuffing in, I'm actually putting in the basil and sage so that you can feel it a little bit at the bottom of his feet, and so that you can smell, get a really good strong scent. And once we've stuffed it more to around the stomach area, I cut off some dried lavender and I put that inside, also for the smell, but also because lavender has a very calming, healing quality that is very powerful, especially for not just physical health but mental health. Very calming and very relaxing. Then I'm also filling up this little vial with some Himalayan salt, because salt around the world is protective and will keep you safe from any form of evil. In Japan, you can throw it at yokai and they'll leave you alone. We know very well from Scottish folklore that the Fae hate salt. So again, a very potent ward for protection. Now for the main spell jar. Now the spell jar for this poppet is slightly different from the one that I made for my friend for fertility. This one is for health, protection and success. But I always put in a few black peppercorns. Now these can be used for banishing purposes for negative poppets, but a lot of these depend on intent, and when I put them in, my intent is for them to strengthen the spell. They just strengthen all the properties of everything you put in, like the salt, and at the moment I'm putting in some cloves, which will protect. They ward off negativity, they protect against evil spirits, negative energy, and also have protective qualities. I'm also putting in some citrine and some chunks of amethyst, because these are also great for health, calming and absorbing negativity. A little bit of sage. More than a little bit of sage. You can never have too much sage. And a little bit more basil as well. Even though there's plenty of that in the poppet, I want it in the spell jar as well. Now I'm adding some cinnamon powder, which is used for abundance, prosperity and success. It's also great for protection. These here are sunflower seeds. They provide joy, positivity and health. They dispel gloom, sadness and depression, and they're also used for making wishes come true or bring a desired outcome to fruition. Same with poppy seeds. And this particular spell is going to a friend that is going through many endeavours at the moment, and I do want them to succeed, so I hope that this will help lead them towards the success I know that they're going to have. Adding in some more pieces of amethyst, citrine, and some little pieces of obsidian, which is also a very protective stone. A little sprig of lavender for luck. And that is our spell jar, all done. Now we're going to take that and put that into the base of our poppet. Making sure to put it in the center, and then we're going to put in a bunch more stuffing to keep it safe and to make our mandrake nice and cuddly. Now, even though I've got powdered cinnamon in the spell jar, I also wanted to put some sticks of cinnamon in the main body again for the nice scent, but also because it is so protective. It's also an energy booster, and the friend that this is going to also suffers from chronic fatigue just like me. I also write out this little spell saying who the poppet is going to serve, how they're going to serve them. So in this one it's going to say that your name is Manny Mandrake and you are going to serve my friend, and put their name in there to keep them healthy and strong and protect them from harm. And then I just read this out again into the mandrake before putting the scroll in there. Now it's quite important I do this in the body rather than in the head, because if you put it in the head, it's like saying it into the mouth, and if you do that then you breathe life into it, which can be a bit risky, so much safer to put it in the body. Time for his heart. For the heart I'm using rose quartz because it's the ultimate protection stone, the healing stone. It's great for self-confidence, and I figure it's also the love stone, and being in the shape of a heart, I'm just going to pop it in some salt just to cleanse it for a little bit. But yeah, being the heart, it's going to give this poppet a good start, because I always figure that you can never go wrong in life if you have love in your heart, and that's what it has as rose quartz. It also promotes soothing, healing of wounds, relieves stress, and promotes a sense of peace, which is always lovely. So I'm also going to wrap it in a holly leaf, because they have intense protection against evil spirits, negative energy. They've got prickly sharp leaves, so they will quite literally protect the heart and keep it safe so it can do its job properly and not be corrupted by anything. So we're going to fill that in, make sure his body's nice and stuffed, keeping all of his insides nice and safe. Once that's done, I push the excess fabric inside the feet so that I can just do a slip stitch and stitch those closed. You can stitch them just directly onto the doll, but I find this a lot easier and tidier for me. Once that's done, I don't actually snip the thread. I use the thread that I've used to slip stitch the arm and sew that directly to the doll, so that everything just gets that much more strength so that it won't come apart. And he has an arm. Time for the other one. There we go. 2 arms. Doesn't he just look like he wants to give you a great big hug, or like he's saying, "Uppies"? So now we can attach his head, which I'm going to do quickly with a transition because it takes a fair amount of concentration. So there we go. I did that the same way as the arms. And now we can finally give him his leaves. I just slip stitched them to the head. And they're completely bendable and imposable, so I'm really glad they've got good mobility there. Now mandrakes have cute little purple flowers, so I found these bits of lace at the local shop, so I'm just going to cut some of them out and add them. I've chosen 3 because 3 is a meaningful number. In paganism, it represents the triple goddess, the maiden, mother, and crone, union of mind, body, and spirit, and the power of creation. But in regards to poppets, the number 3 is also used to amplify energy, intent, and efficiency of the spell. So it means that everything I've put inside its body should be amplified, which is great. Now, even though I tied knots in these, they still wanted to pull out. So I'm just putting some fabric glue underneath them and pinning them in place so that they are not going to go anywhere. So we'll just leave them there to dry for a while. And there we go, nice and dry and all glued into place. But he still seems to be missing a little something. I know. He's missing a little bit of makeup, so this puppet's going to be getting a face up too, with a little bit of pinkish red pastel. I'm just going to brush on a little bit of blusher here, so he looks like he's smiling. Now the other side. looking pretty good, but that side on the left almost looks a little bit paler, do you think? Let's just give him a little bit more. Perfect. But he's still missing a little something. He needs a bed. There we are, nice and comfy. Oh, but he's cold. We can fix that. I have this lovely brown velvet that I got from an op shop for about $2. It's so nice and soft, and I'm going to use that to make him a little blanket. I mean, we already know that they cry when they get dug up, so I thought it makes sense for him to have a little soil blanket. But it's going to fray if I don't neaten it, so I'm just going to hem all of the edges right around. There we go, nice and neat. Here you go, little buddy. Let's tuck you into bed. Nice and warm. Now to make the little label that goes with them, because I want my friends to know what's inside and how their personal poppet is going to take care of them. So I do that on my iPad in a program called Affinity Photo. So I made all these little cards with the name, what's in it, and telling them not to forget the blankie, and also that it's handmade with love and a little bit of blood because pins are sharp and ouchy. So now that that's all personalised, I've sent it to the printer. Perfect. Now after cutting it out, I'm going to punch a hole in it. And spoiler alert, I get way off centre and I do end up printing off another one because it's just not strong enough. But I'll also take a little bit of elastic and tie a loop, trim off the excess, and I'm putting a ribbon through the hole, tying not so much a knot, but just to keep the loop in place. And then I'm going to tie it around the elastic loop and finish it with a lovely little bow. So now the elastic loop will fit over his hand. There we go. All done! I know it's a little bit different from my regular doll videos, but I hope you enjoyed seeing how I made this little poppet. I found that I really enjoy making these particular types of dolls because of how much I love plushies, but also because it makes me happy to make something that's not only a cute cuddly gift for my friends, but something that'll also keep them safe and healthy. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you like what you see, and I'll be back really soon with another poppet video and the Q&A video. See you next time. Bye!